All right. Anything we got to talk about?
About wood.
We got show notes are pretty straightforward.
I haven't looked at these since 8 o'clock this morning. I don't remember what I put in it.
Nothing.
But
Oh, yeah. I can take this knitting underbelly thing. I read that article.
Yeah, I read the title. Does that count?
Yep. And I suppose I can take the whole bad axe thing.
That's a bad axe idea. Okay, so am I correct in the timing on the vacation thing? So next week is our last show for the summer, and then we'll be back September 4th. When is fall officially?
September 23rd.
Okay, so I probably shouldn't say that because someone will be like, it's still summer.
The autumnal equinox falls on the 22nd, and it's the 23rd. I don't know. It's my wife's birthday. It's the 23rd.
Next week is our last show in August.
Forever!
And we're done.
You just need to say, next week is our last show.
I should, because
until September.
It'll be accurate. I just leave the second half of the sentence out.
We're quitting the show.
Okay. September 4th, and Matt will be here for a couple of weeks. We got the flight booked, Shannon. It's going to be pretty awesome.
God.
You sure you don't want to come out too and just watch? It's going to be pretty great.
Sit in the corner. Occasionally chime in on things you shouldn't be doing.
Excuse me. Shut up,
Wouldn't
Shannon. Wouldn't it be faster if you did it this way?
If, start all of my conversations with typical YouTube preambles.
Well, you could be like,
it'd be better if
I saw a Paul Sellers video and
oh my God, I got an email today from somebody who was saying, I don't even remember what the topic was, but he said Peter Sellers instead of Paul Sellers.
Yeah.
I laughed for a very long time.
I do love his work, I'll tell you that much.
I'm a big fan of Peter Sellers.
I got an email today from somebody who was saying, I don't even remember what the topic was, but he said Peter Sellers instead of Paul Sellers.
Oh, maybe I should not listen to myself. That was confusing.
Probably.
I was like, why is Shannon telling the same story twice?
I wanted to make sure you really heard it because it was that good.
It was really that important.
It was a good story.
Yeah.
Did you see my bench swarf?
Yeah.
It looks pretty good, doesn't it?
It gave me physical pain.
The week after Shannon says, don't do it, I do it.
Well, when I saw you posted the scraper sharpening thing yesterday, and I was like, oh, that must be his old David Marks bench because he wouldn't do that to his Roubeau. And then I saw it later today and I was like, you did!
It's right over there, baby.
You sold that, didn't you?
It's just wood.
The old one? The Purple Heart one?
Yeah, I think so. Sold it or gave it away. I can't remember. But that was
You don't have it anymore.
That was 6 houses ago. I have no idea. It just kind of all blends together after the fourth one.
Oh, that's right. It was that long ago.
It was a long time. That was soon after we moved to Arizona. So, okay. Want to do a show?
No. Let's just do a live
Let's just cancel
thing.
it.
All good.
We'll do it live. All right.
Shut up, we'll do it live.
You know, one of my little obsessions is deleting unused cells in the doc.
Oh, yeah.
It drives me nuts, and I just like to delete the extra ones that we're not using. It's too much space in there. All right, nobody cares about that crap.
I do it in the form response all the time.
I appreciate
it. It's a great feeling to go in and just delete dumb questions.
What?
Since
there
we're
are no
live right now, it's important people know.
Shannon, there are no dumb questions, only dumb
You
people.
do what?
Remember.
Oh, you should have seen some of the ones I deleted today. There are dumb questions.
Well,
usually, to be fair, usually it's questions that we answered that last week or 5 weeks ago or something.
Yeah. Do we still have all the questions Matt sent us when he was a fan of the show? Is that still in the doc?
He's got his own tab.
Hey guys, maybe I can be on the show sometime.
I'm a really big fan. I'm 16 years old. And I'd love to build a bandsaw one day.
Oh god. I was so young.
Oh, so young and innocent. Now look at you. You old grizzled, yelling at kids on your lawn.
We do have lots of questions on requests for bandsaw mill plans, though.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Lots of them.
Get on that, Matt.
Oh, another thing to do.
Just something else to do. Another way to make money. All right, let's do a show.
Welcome to Wood Talk, turning woodworkers into knitters since 2007. Here are your hosts, Mark, Shannon, and Matt.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 403 for July 31st, 2017. On today's show, we're talking about sepele working properties, veneering solid wood, 220-volt extension cords, and ripping chain. Ripping chain. What's a ripping chain?
Is that a euphemism?
Ripping chain.
Matt rips chain. That's our show title right there.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh,
I guess we'll
we're
find
not
out what
even
that
to the show
is.
that far yet. Here we are at the show title already.
Yeah, we'll find out what that is later. We'd like to thank some folks who helped us out over at Patreon. It's patreon.com/woodtalk. Let's see. So we have Joe Wilcox, Josh Duplin, Art Ceballos, and Keith Decent. I see his name all the time. I never know how to pronounce his last name. I'm going to have to ask him. Something like that. So thank you so much for helping us out, you Frenchmen. And we appreciate your support. We'll read your name, and I'll butcher the pronunciation at the top of the show. But we appreciate it either way.
I'll butcher as best I can.
I will do my best to make fun of it. And, so we got a note on here. Follow our dumbasses on Instagram at Wood Talk Show. So, yeah, I started that Instagram thing, and it's really just for nonsense. There's just nothing else that we could possibly post there other than ridiculousness. So if you're into that kind of thing, you really should subscribe and follow us on Instagram. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Someday we might post something serious, so you might want to subscribe anyway, even if you're not into it.
Yeah,
that day you should start worrying about us.
Yeah, true. Really. I mean, because honestly, with our 3 individual feeds, like, what else could we contribute with that other than ridiculousness and stuff people really don't need to see?
Basically, humor and things you can't unsee.
Yes, and lots of great Photoshop work and really bad Photoshop work too. I've got a whole queue of these things ready to post.
That should be our new intro, a show that keeps Photoshop artists in the green.
Yes, amateur Photoshop artists. Some of them are pretty bad. We also have a quick announcement about the summer vacation. If you've listened to the show for a long time, we typically do take off at least a week or 2 or sometimes 3 in the summer, take a break, and then start back in the fall or September-ish right before fall. So that's what we're going to do. Just a heads up, next week is going to be our last show in August, and then we will be returning on September 4th. So a couple weeks off, and there's a lot going on in August for all of us, and it's just nice to take a little break so we can come back refreshed. And this whole 2.5 shows a week, yeah, it's kind of that's a pace to keep up with. So I think we could use a little break.
Oh, like I say, it's like a break. Like we're gonna be sitting on our butts.
Yeah.
No.
It just means freeing up time to do things that we've been putting on the back burner, like Matt coming out here for a week. You know, that's something that obviously neither of us had time for in our schedule, but we're doing anyway. So,
we love you guys so much that
what's it matter? We'll get together. We're trying to get Shannon out here too. We don't know what he's going to do when he gets here, but we're trying to figure out a way to make it happen.
Well, I mean, who else is gonna? How are we gonna get our Dunkin' every day or multiple times?
We do need Dunkin' runs. Shannon,
I would travel to Colorado just to be the Dunkin' boy. I would do that.
I'm running low on
The hard
coffee.
part would be getting me to leave, Mark. I'd be like,
yeah.
just one more day.
Damn it, Shannon! I said no sugar. All right. So let's see. That's it. So look forward to not hearing us for a few weeks. I'm sure that'll be a nice, pleasant treat for some people. And let's get to what's on the bench. So there's these chairs, and
are there?
And I'm working on them. So that's still going on. And the other, I guess, the only consequential thing. I mean, the chairs, it's fine. It's going at a slow pace, but it's still going. Cool thing happened. My son's 5 years old. He's going to be 6 in October, and he hasn't really gotten a whole lot of interest in the shop or building things. And I'm not rushing him. It's like when he's ready to move from Lego to wood, I'll be here to embrace it and help him. So this past weekend, I was just doing some things in the shop. Ava was in bed already, and Nicole comes out here. We're all just kind of hanging out in the shop, which was kind of cool. And I had cleaned up, and I've got a bunch of cherry scraps from this chair project of various sizes. So the first thing that I noticed that was hilarious, as he realizes there's a really cool looking piece of scrap in the garbage can, then he goes dumpster diving in my garbage can. And I'm like, attaboy, you should start a YouTube channel. And that's a bad joke.
Let's just hope that you're not peeing in your sawdust bucket.
That's true. You never know. I might do worse than that. You just never know. So he starts pulling all these pieces out. And he goes, Dad, I need nails. And, I kind of feel a little bit ashamed that I actually don't have any. So
So you even have nails?
I don't have any nails. So I'm like, I have screws, buddy. He's like, but I need nails. I'm like, well, but screws are better. He's like, no, I need nails. Go to Home Depot and get me nails. So he didn't say that, but I did go to Home Depot. I got him his own
That
little.
would have been awesome if he'd said that.
He's not
Go
that
to
far.
Home Depot, aisle 9 in the back.
Yeah, he's not that far off from saying that.
I
So
need some 8-penny nails.
so I
Bring
got
them
him
back
this little plastic container of various size nails and brought those home. And I just was showing him how to use a hammer, and we started banging some pieces of wood together, and he made these little spaceships. Actually, they're quite big. And then CA glue, was all over the place because I'm trying to get things held together quickly. And it was just fun. It was total woodworking nonsense, but the kid loved it. So I'm hoping that that's the beginning of inspiring that sort of interest in what's going on in here, other than Dad just makes a lot of noise and dust, and actually getting involved. So that was pretty cool. It was just fun to experience with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's about it for me. What you got going on, Matt?
I'm making a crosscut sled.
Really?
Yeah.
It's 2017.
Hell yeah.
You realize that, right?
Is it out of a slab?
Already?
Live edge slab?
Yeah, live edge slab
It probably
sled.
should have been. I don't think. Oh, I already annoy the internet too much with my excessive use of materials
That's true.
that
You're very
most
wasteful.
people can't attain, but they literally grow on trees around here. Anyway, so I've had this new table saw for like almost a year, and prior to that, like when I built my first crosscut sled for my other table saw, like changed my life, and like it became like a huge part of my workflow. And then like I haven't had one for almost a year, and it's been really annoying because I'm like, yeah, I want to make some crosscuts, but I don't really feel like using the miter gauge or putting a fence on the miter gauge or like dragging my chop saw out.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been like trying to figure out ways to make all these like crosscuts for the last year without doing anything. So it's been like, just don't do any crosscuts or just avoid it at all costs.
Redesign the
really
project.
It's been really weird. Like stop blocks and things hasn't been existing. It's been really goofy.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it just shows like I haven't been doing any casework for a while, so I haven't really had to do a whole lot of stuff with the crosscut sled, because the crosscut sled comes really handy for, smaller parts or I don't know, weird stuff like that where you're doing a lot of casework where you might have those smaller parts. But I've been making I just made like 2 beds in a row, and like you don't really need crosscut sled for that as much. I guess you find ways around it.
You've been
But
making like timber frame furniture lately, so
Right.
That place seems that way. A lot of drawboarding. Everything's drawboard lately.
yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm doing that. I'm making a little crosscut sled. I'm making
Cool.
it out of MDF, making it as boring as possible because for some reason I don't really care to have like nice things for jigs and sleds and things.
Mm-hmm.
So like no T-track, no nothing, just MDF with some runners screwed to it and an MDF fence and a piece of scrap wood for a back fence. That's it.
Yeah, I saw. I guess it might have been on Facebook. I think someone was asking you like about the bells and whistles, and you're like, I'm kind of going to be more of a minimalistic, simple guy on this one.
There's people. I mean, I have nothing wrong with people with like little flip stops and no T-track inside the thing to hold for hold downs or whatever. I'm like, I don't ever use that. I've never like felt like, man, I wish I had that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt that way, so I'm like, meh. Get rid of some scrap MDF and move on with my life. I'd rather be cross-cutting stuff than making a sled.
Yeah. The only thing I think I would really get a lot of use out of is a stop. So if you had the T-track stop that you can just kind of engage and move from side to side, because I'm almost always grabbing like a piece of scrap from somewhere in the shop and clamping it to the fence.
That's what I do.
That's something I do a lot. So if I had a stop, that might be the only bell/whistle that I could see putting into my crosscut sled. That would be worthwhile.
Now, if you had a stop, like one of those like Craig flip stops, would you put a ruler on it?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's never. I mean, I'm never going to get that thing accurate enough to trust it anyway. I'm going to grab my ruler and just take a measurement directly from the workpiece and a blade. I don't ever trust that.
I remember one of the first major like aftermarket upgrades I did in my shop was that Craig track and flip stop.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Diami Plotke has it now. I sold it to him.
Oh, really?
I started when I got rid of the chop saw and everything. I sold him the whole fin system, and I remember spending hours calibrating it and getting the ruler like just right, so that the blade came down right at the 0 mark and everything, and get everything lined up. And then I remember doing the first project I did on it, and I never once like did the measurements. Or I would like take it out to like the 12-inch mark and then pull a ruler out and double check it like 6 times or whatever. It was just like, what was the point, man? Like who is going to actually trust? I did the same thing with my table saw. and I had
Yeah.
a great Biesemeyer fence, and I always pulled out the ruler to check the distance between the fence and, because what is the ruler set to, like the carbide tooth or the plate, on that circular saw, because there's a difference. And so you never know. You're always double checking. And I always just thought, man, I just wasted like hours of my life calibrating that little peel and stick ruler.
Yeah. I got that beautiful Incra, miter gauge deal, and it's got this wonderful little strip on the top that I've never even looked at. Yeah, as far as whether I have no idea if it works. It doesn't matter. It's just sometimes those rules just. It seems we all agree. I'd like to hear from people who are very into those, whether it's like your table saw or any other tool. If you really rely on a built-in measuring tool, and I like the table saw, mine's pretty close. So if I'm getting close to something, but if it's a really exact number, I'm going to get it close using that, but then I'm going to take the ruler out and check it. Like I will never rely on that for absolute accuracy.
I think there's an opportunity there for a new product. Like think like Apple's, what is that thing called? The Smart Bar or Power Bar or whatever at the top of their
yes. Yep.
Power Max.
Yep.
Or some sort of like peel and stick inspirational quote sticker, or get your favorite Wood Talk intros and you could just like put that over top of the track, because you don't need the ruler anymore, but you want something there that you can look down and go, oh yeah, I remember the time that Matt ripped chain. Ha ha ha. Move on with your work.
I think we just market some stickers for Wood Talk, and it just would have the Wood Talk logo repeatedly, over like 48 inches.
Specifically meant to fit in that little T-track.
There you go.
Perfect.
All right, we just came up with a new product idea.
Love stickers.
Love it.
I put on my stuff. Good advertising for the show.
That's right. Yeah. All right, Shannon, what do you got going on?
Notice the Matt Cremona shirt in the background there.
Boom.
Yeah, strategically placed.
I sold a shirt last week.
Hey!
During the show.
Really?
During the show. Nice. What do I got going on? Well, part of this, nice.
Just a little subliminal message. It's fine. Go on.
Audio show, guys. Audio show.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, sorry.
For those of you listening, Mark just dropped his shorts.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
That does help me sell a lot of books.
Actually, yeah, the fact that he had shorts on was a big change.
Yeah.
So we talked about this whole summer hiatus, I think, as Vanderlist used to call it. And the joke about we're not really taking a vacation. I will be at my main home, and I will be filming a lot of stuff for my prequel semester here. So I've been basically, I came into the wood shop yesterday with my laptop because I felt like I missed my shop. Like I wanted to just be in the shop, even though I had all this computer work to do.
Just to hang out there.
So like I sat at the workbench with my laptop and did SketchUp models, and it just further strengthens my assumption or my realization that SketchUp is a woodworking video game, because it was kind of like my fix. Like I wanted to get in the shop and do some stuff, but it didn't make sense because there's no time to get started on a project before I go away, and I've got this other stuff I need to prepare for. So I built stuff in SketchUp, and it was actually a lot of fun. So I can understand. I've always been kind of a minimalist. I use SketchUp just to kind of mock up proportions and stuff, and I've never really gone so far as to add in a bunch of joinery, maybe a mortise and tenon there and there, but definitely not like dovetails, because that's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Even when like the repeating shortcuts and stuff, it's still a lot of work to put dovetails in SketchUp. And I went like all out here. I added joinery in on the little things that I'm doing. I started like coloring them, wood grain, and just having a lot of fun with it. And it was that same type of feeling of like playing like a flight simulator or like a Sims type game.
Yeah.
Here I am engineering this piece of furniture, I guess would be the best word for it. It was a lot of fun though, but I got that done. But it brings up a point that I'm kind of seeking some kickback here. I'm doing this semester specifically to be like a total bare bones entry point, because I've been hearing from so many people who, they want to get into this, but they have no idea. They don't have any tools whatsoever. And I've been hearing from a lot of people that you want like the wood to be as accessible as possible. And since we three are the quote average woodworker who have
of course we are
sawmills and work at a huge lumber importer, and well, I guess again, Mark is the average woodworker in this situation.
I am the most average, you guys. You guys suck.
I'm really hesitant to one of the projects I'm going to be building just using big box like construction lumber, but the others I really want to go with hardwood because just from a durability perspective. And I keep hearing people like the average woodworker voice in the back of my head going, you want to make it accessible, you want to make sure it's something you can get at a big box store or whatever. And the more I think about it, the more I want to get away from softwood as soon as possible because I just feel like softwood is such a pain in the butt, man. I mean, there is good quality softwood, but the only place you can get that, like if sourcing is a problem, like I don't have a lumber near me, you're not going to get good quality softwood. Like find rough sawn eastern white pine or Alaskan yellow cedar or even like Douglas fir, that it's at a specialty lumber yard. So when you're thinking softwood, you're talking like Home Depot, Lowe's pine, maybe cedar. And the stuff is just a royal pain in the butt. And I was reminded of that building that workbench earlier this summer. Like doing a simple like chopping out a notch, saw the two ends, put the chisel in the middle, give it a whack, and it should just pop away cleanly. No, it doesn't, because there's all this knots and like twisted grain and crap. And like chopping out a simple like 2-inch wide, 1-inch deep notch should take seconds with a chisel and a saw. And it took me like 20 minutes because the grain was so interlocked and messed up, and it was really, really frustrating. And I remember thinking, man, softwood suck. That and the fact that they're super soft and like for hand tools. So, it's funny because I'm designing this semester to be approachable, and I feel like I'm going the other direction. Like, you should get away from the big box store as soon as possible, or at least become super, super picky when you're in the big box store. And it's not, certainly there's a price tag issue for everybody. Lumber is expensive. There's no question. But I feel like, man, the heartache that comes from buying cheap lumber is not worth it. And in the long run, like the more you expect of your skills, the more you're going to be hindered by crappy wood.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'd be curious specifically to hear from the audience about people who don't have lumber options. Matt's got a lumber yard in his backyard. Mark, I know your market. You've got some really nice lumber yards nearby. I've got, 12 lumber yards.
Mark, can we
within
go
an
to a
hour.
lumber yard when I'm there?
Yeah, you want to
Can
see
we,
what one
please?
looks like?
Pretty please.
Yeah,
you
I'll
should.
take it. I'll
Can we
show
go
you what.
slumming?
I'll
Let's
show
go
you what it
slumming.
looks like. Matt will
Take
walk
him to
through
that slab place.
with his nose in the air. Oh yeah, I'll take you to CS Woods.
Oh man.
That'd be awesome. You'd just be like, psh, amateurs.
So anyway, I would love to hear from the people who don't have those wood sourcing options. Where do you get your lumber? Like, because some of these smaller projects, I think, well, I can just run out to the dumpster and pick it up. But
Don't say that, Shannon.
but-
You're gonna get so much crap for that one.
but in addition to that, there are cabinet shops all over the place that have dumpsters that have like 1 foot cutoffs, 2 foot cutoffs. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Just find a local contractor, specifically like a local cabinet shop. Now you're going to find a lot of plywood, but a lot of those face frames and door parts are solid wood. So you've got all kinds of little cutoffs. So if you're making, like say you're making a marking gauge or a bench hook or something like that, just getting started, there's all kinds of sources for that. And you don't have to go to Home Depot and buy their super fast, quote, kiln dried wood and end up with really nasty stuff. So I don't know, maybe again, because I am spoiled working at a lumber yard, maybe I'm just fooling myself. So I would seriously love to hear from people who are wood poor and don't have wood options. What do you do? Certainly the internet is an option, but I'd be curious to hear less about the internet options because I know about those for the most part, and who you're getting your stuff from, non-traditional sources, more importantly.
Interesting question.
Yeah,
They're probably getting them from pallets and from repurposed stuff. Like if you don't have a choice, what are you going to do?
that's a legitimate source. There's a heck of a lot of work usually that has to happen to get it. A lot of times it's really, really thin, but
Sure.
hey, why not?
It's wood. Okay, so let's get to what's new. I have a cool new saw waiting for me because one thing I am is saw rich. I may not be lumber rich, but I'm saw rich. I have more miter saws than I know what to do with. Okay, so Makita came out with a new sliding compound miter saw. I don't know exactly when it was released, but it's just kind of gaining steam at this point. And what makes it interesting is the dust collection. They've redesigned something with the way the rail works, so it's a little bit more lower profile, and clearly one of those that's trying to sort of be a little bit more of a contender against like the Capex. And one of the best things about the Capex is it's just out of the box dust collection is fantastic, and no other saw can really touch that. Well, I've seen some demos, and I wanted to see for myself because the demos looked really good, and like it looked as good as the dust collection you get on a Festool Capex. So I already had a Makita saw, which I actually just sold, and that was a really interesting process because I was listening to, what the hell was it? What the heck was it? Sorry, getting a little fast and loose with the language here. Modern Maker podcast, I believe it was, and I think Chris had mentioned that he sold a workbench using Facebook Classifieds, and I've seen the classified thing in my app, and I'm like, I hate Craigslist. Maybe this will be a little bit better. So I tried it, and within a few hours, I had someone local here in Colorado to come out and buy this miter saw because I had to make way for the new one coming in today, and it sold so quickly. I was like, okay, that was easy. And the person who bought it had a profile, and I should probably warn them they should probably lock it down because their profile is kind of like wide open. But the fact that it was wide open, I could see where it was a girl who contacted me. I could see where she worked. I could see that they verified that they are in this area. And it just gave me a little bit more of a sort of a comfort level to go through with this transaction. On Craigslist, every person I talk to makes me feel like running away and hiding. I am very uncomfortable with that. So anyway, just total aside, if you try to use that, I'm curious if you guys have similar experiences, but it was actually a really good selling experience. So anyway, this new Makita just arrived. FedEx guy just dropped it off. I had to sign for it, but it's the LS1019L. And it pretty much is like the old one, just with these two new changes to it. So I'm super excited because honestly, the only thing that's gotten me thinking I really do miss that Capex is that dust collection. I really want good dust collection on a miter saw. So hopefully this will fit the bill. So I'll keep you guys posted.
Which saws do you have right now?
Right now, well, because I just sold one, so I'm down. Yeah. I'm down to two. I've got the Bosch Glide and this new Makita. I almost had three. If I didn't sell that other one, I would have had three. I do it for the people, This is not about me, Matt. I do it for the public at large.
I was curious because maybe I want to do my own shootout. I don't know.
you want to just actually when you come here, I'll set up the second miter saw. You could have your own. How's that? Perfect. We each have our own miter saw.
We can race.
That sounds safe. Let's try that.
That just sounds wonderful for a live Friday live, some sort of like miter saw race.
So, chop off, we'll call it.
Or I can just picture Mark with a tin cup sitting behind his army of miter saws, just clanging it. Nobody knows the trouble I see. I only have 3 miter saws.
Yeah, there's no shortage of miter saws in my life.
During Friday Live, I'll be doing like longevity testing, like see how many cuts I can make before a saw kills itself. I was still there cutting. Don't mind Matt in the corner. He's just testing the saw.
He's just running some tests.
Over in the background, like slightly off camera, so you just like see his elbow like going up and down.
We're gonna have to reposition.
Hey, keep it down over there, Kimona.
Yeah, we're gonna reposition the shot so you could just see Matt working in the background and us doing the show in the foreground. That would be good. But anyway, so
throw stuff at him faster.
Yeah. Okay, word of warning, if you do buy this thing, I initially bought it on Amazon, and it was like a 4-week wait to get it. While I was waiting, I decided to go check out some other vendors because I'm like, that's stupid. Why don't I just look around? I never think to do that. I kind of shop almost exclusively on Amazon, and I probably pay more for things and wait longer for some things. So I believe it was Acme Tools. They had the same saw. It was like $50 cheaper, and they had it in stock. So I canceled the Amazon order and got it from Acme Tools instead, and it's here today. So good stuff. So just, don't assume Amazon has everything and has the lowest price, because a lot of times they don't.
How that has changed. Like,
right?
This is the company that invented next day shipping for free, and now it's not always the fastest place. And
yeah, it's weird.
It's crazy.
I was really surprised. I mean, and it's not just a little bit cheaper. I think it was like a solid $50 cheaper and still free shipping. So couldn't beat that.
That's nuts. Well, speaking of having too many saws, I have too many saws, and yet I just bought another one.
And you make fun of me.
I hinted at this last week. It was still not in the news, but I think officially as of today, if not today, tomorrow, Bad Axe Toolworks is now selling handsaws. full size 26-inch or 24-inch panel saws. And this is just exciting, just because I get this question all the time. Certainly there are a lot of great vintage saws. All I have are vintage saws, and but that can be really daunting. It'd be really scary to kind of restore it. There's certainly people who will do the restore for you, but like all the vintage hand tool markets, things have gotten really expensive and difficult to find. You can't just go out and pick up a jack plane for a song anymore. They've gotten more expensive. Saws have gotten even more expensive. And for the same reason that companies like Veritas and Lee Nielsen are doing so well is because you can buy something. Yes, it costs a pretty penny, but I'm getting something that pretty much is ready to go out of the box. I know I don't have to worry about any of this fiddling and fettling of a plane or a sole or blades or any of that stuff. And for saws, which still the sharpening and tuning of them is still a very scary subject for a lot of people, this is huge. Like, there is no one making a quality handsaw right now. There are some companies, I shouldn't say that. There's nobody in North America. There's a couple guys in Great Britain doing it, but even then, like the pack saws and stuff like that you can get through Woodcraft or Lee Valley, they're just not up to snuff. So now we've got somebody who's doing it. It's expensive, folks. I think it starts at $375, $400.
Oh, geez.
So it's very expensive.
How many horsepower is it?
1/15.
Okay.
The average human is 1/15 horsepower.
If I'm going to spend that much money on a saw, it better have a motor.
But, in typical Bad Axe fashion, it's full of bling. You can choose your saw jewelry however you want, whatever saw, handle species, thumb hole, grip, all the fun stuff on it. But it's exciting. And if anybody is not aware, the whole idea of taper grinding a blade is incredibly difficult. It was, commonplace back when people were producing saws all the time. We have just lost that skill, the machinery even to do that. So it's one of the reasons you haven't seen companies like, Lee Nielsen jump into it whole hog, because it's like a major retooling in order to make it happen. And Mark Carroll at Bad Axe, it's been like 6 or 7 years that he's been trying to figure out how to do this in a somewhat affordable method, because I've been bugging him for 6 or 7 years saying, you're missing out, man. This is a market you need to tap into. And he's finally done it. So it's exciting. Even more exciting is maybe like some other people will come along soon enough, and we'll have some options in the market.
Oh, I hope so.
Mark's going to send me hate mail for saying that.
I so hope so. No, and that's cool. It's always good to see this stuff. So this grind you're talking about, is that something that people are familiar with for sharpening, or does it make it more difficult to sharpen? Or
no, it's what it comes down to is the back, or the back of the saw is slightly thinner than the tooth line, so the saw doesn't bind in the cut.
Okay.
And certainly you can work with a non-taper ground saw, but you have to have a wider set on the teeth in order to compensate for that. And there's also, like, if you've worked with a non-taper ground saw and a taper ground saw, there's a significant weight difference. The saw is not quite as flexible. It can actually bend and kink a little bit more with that extra steel at the back. So it's kind of an essential thing. And when you look at like the vintage saws that perform well, that's one of the things that makes them perform well, is that taper grind. But you're talking about removing a hell of a lot of steel. Taper the entire breadth of a saw. The saw plate is 4 or 5 inches across, and you've got to do a consistent taper, because if it's inconsistent, then you'll get the saw like bending funny. So there's a significant amount of machining that has to happen in there, and the tooling just kind of went extinct, so you had to like dig around in the back of like Matt's backyard and hope to find it like under a cinder block somewhere.
Yeah.
What kind of backyard do you think I have?
Sanford and Son.
Sanford and Son? Come on. We've discussed this already. So anyway, I don't know. I'm excited.
That's
Chainsaw
cool.
people out there, at least we finally have a place that I can point you to.
Yeah.
You're going to be very sad when you see the price. You're going to cry and whine, but
So, which one should I buy? You get that question quite a bit. Like, if you're
yeah, it's a good question.
If you're like a marker, a me kind of woodworker, would this benefit anything, or would any of these crosscut saw or like a rip saw help for any reason other than it's fun?
No, no. I mean, even the hybrid, like one of the things that I always tell even the hybrid guys is having your crosscut saw around is great for like breaking down roughs on stock. like cutting it to length or like keeping it in the car to cut down like the lumberyard stuff to fit in the car. But you can go and buy like a Stanley Fat Max saw for $10 at the hardware store and do the exact same thing. This is you may find some uses as a hybrid woodworker, but then you'd be talking about a crosscut saw. You're not going to probably be doing a lot of ripping work. If you're using like a jigsaw to break down your rough sawn lumber to length, this actually could be good for you because it would probably do it faster than a jigsaw in many instances. But
it feels like a waste though to spend that much money to do rough cuts.
Exactly. Yeah. There's something to be said about that. This is catering to the hand tool guys. Yeah, but there are a lot of us, and we're getting stronger every day. The more we saw, the stronger.
The bigger your arms get.
Yeah. You know what? It's such a waste of money. I just got myself a sheet of steel and an angle grinder, and I can make my own.
Sorry. The angle grinder is so important to all tool making. I should really buy one.
You really should. You're missing out.
Treadle-powered angle grinder.
So, man. Let's move off of that.
I know what I'm sending Shannon for Christmas this year.
An angle grinder?
Angle grinder.
Yeah. Can't wait to see what he makes.
I'll show you where to plug it in, man.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Moving on.
Please, quickly.
If you heard the intro to our show, we revisited the whole knitter feud, and Nathan's helping us here by sending us a story about the dark and seedy underbelly of the criminal knitting world. This is a story of a knitting-related website that is selling knitting plans that apparently have been pirated. It's like the Napster of knitting.
It's like the Ted's knitting plans.
Oh, I went further back and went to Napster. Sorry.
Ted's patterns. That was before Cremona was even born. He doesn't even know what that is.
It's true. But there's some merit to this when we talk about Ted's is a good example, or just woodworking designs in general. It's just interesting to read this though, because there's like, I guess it's the same way when non-woodworkers were to listen to this show and you talk about like woodworking forums and the cliques and like the schisms between woodworking forums. Apparently there's like the fashion or the knitting fashionistas and things like that. The different forums they talk about in this article, it's kind of funny to hear. But anyway, those knitters, they're some seedy people.
Gotta watch out.
Look out.
There's times I'll tell a story about something online to like my neighbor, and they find it like utterly hilarious that people get this uptight about woodworking topics. So it's exactly the same thing. It just depends on which niche you're in. Anyone else, getting uptight about this stuff is hilarious. But when you're in it, it somehow seems meaningful, I guess. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's get to our kickback today. We've got 2 voicemail kickbacks. The first one here is from Billy. Billy's disappointed.
Hey guys, this is Billy Newton from Macomb, Michigan, and I have some kickback for episode 401 regarding the track saw conversation. As a Patreon supporter, I was excited to see that the episode was posted in my feed. I did exactly what I was supposed to do as a supporter. I stopped all productivity at work in order to listen to it immediately. I was excited that you were going to talk about track saws because I'm in the market to buy one, and I was looking at the Triton. With the major factor being that I can get the saw, the tracks, the accessories for all about half the price of the Festool TS55. And I figured that since Matt was a Triton sellout, that we'd be able to get some good information on the Triton version. And I was hoping that you would discuss how good the various track saws work. Do they operate smoothly? What you want to look for when buying a track saw? How are the accessories and the jigs for cutting 90 degrees and other angles? Instead, the conversation basically went along the lines of, buy a Festool and Matt has hairy legs. I really don't think that we did the topic justice, and I just think we could do better. I mean, how hairy of a pair of legs are we really talking here? Matt's pretty skinny from burning calories lifting all those slabs. Are we talking like tarantula legs? Maybe you can post a picture on the Wood Talk Instagram feed so we can properly assess this. Just trying to provide some constructive criticism because, I just think that we can do better. Thanks, guys.
I'm down with that. If you want to do a little picture of your legs or something, send that to me, Matt. We could post that on Instagram and
sure.
Let the debate ensue. In fact, I'll take a picture of my leg and we can do a little hairy comparison.
Whose legs are whose?
Yeah, there you go. We'll just have people guess.
Well, at the risk of being the oldest guy in the room,
The
I
risk.
think
The risk. It's kind
well,
of a
and-
fact.
and
It's a fact.
being the buzzkill here, Billy's got a point. Sometimes we get a little too carried away with the jokes, and maybe we need to answer our questions a little bit more.
Shut up.
I'm the unpopular opinion here, but
Wah,
you know, there was a
wah.
time when we used to offer woodworking advice on this show.
No, here's what
Scary
happened
people.
on that one. If I remember correctly, it was just my email question. So it wasn't like we were all talking about track saws. I was just giving my opinion, and that's why it focused on Festool, and we didn't even talk about Triton because it wasn't Matt's question. But Matt,
So actually,
Matt
Matt's
could have
a sell out
chimed
in reverse. He sold out his sponsor by not
by not
talking
defending
up.
them. Well, hey, let's
Oh.
make
As
up for
usual,
this.
I blame Matt.
Let's make up
I
for
didn't
this
know it
right
was my
now.
job to force my sponsor's products down your throat every day.
So Matt,
Don't you
Shannon.
read your YouTube comments, Matt?
Yeah,
That's what you're
get rid
supposed
of all
to
your
do.
tools. You should have all Triton tools in
be
there.
all
Stop
orange.
trying to sell me fancy handsaws when the Triton jigsaw will do exactly the same thing.
for like what, half the price?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, yes.
I think it would be.
Less than half the price.
That color looks so bad on me. I don't know.
Yeah, orange doesn't go good with your lights that you have in the ceiling there. So Matt, real quick, and this is
Yes.
serious. Have you used the Triton track saw system?
Yeah, it's one of the tools I use quite a bit because I've always used the track saw fairly frequently.
So do you like it?
It cuts straight lines.
Ha-
Had the TS55 before that. That
Yeah.
cuts straight lines as well.
Pretty comparable, just in terms of what you expect it to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's as far as I'm concerned, the stuff that I do, I'm not on a job site every day. The things that are important to me is, does it stay on the track? Does it cut the straight line? Does the track move when you're sawing or whatever? And it does all those things just fine. Still cutting straight lines, still doing whatever. Power's fine. I think the depth of cut is actually just a little bit deeper on the Triton than on the Festool. So that's kind of
No
nice
kidding.
for the stuff I do. It'll actually go over, I think it's 2 1/8 for the depth of cut. When
Nice.
the Festool is 1 15/16. I think, something like that. So the extra depth of the cut is kind of a nice little bonus feature. I don't know. The only thing I don't like about it is the dust thing doesn't swivel.
I thought you were going to say, the only thing I don't like about it is it's just too easy to use.
It's just so easy. I feel like I'm cheating all the
Like
time.
the guy at the job interview, is like, well, you know what? My biggest downfall is I care too much.
Yeah.
I work too hard.
I'm just a hard worker, and it's a problem for me. Okay, well that's good. Well, see, I thought
Do you guys find yourself using a track saw in like anything other than cutting a straight line, like breaking down sheet goods and stuff? I mean,
like curves.
well,
Yes.
I mean, he
Quite
he's
often with
talking
curves.
about like the jigs and the stops and the other kind of
Oh,
other uses. And I mean, I have a track saw, by the way. It's used specifically to break down plywood, and all I'm doing is cutting a straight line with it. I would never think to do anything else with it because I've got other tools that I would do that for. But there's no question that a circular saw can actually be much more of a utility player. I mean, it's essentially it's a circular blade, right? It's a table saw, just flip the other way around, and you could do some other stuff with it.
man,
I just
wanna see you
wonder-
make cove molding with your track saw.
Yeah.
oh, that'd be nice. Let's do it. That sounds like something Izzy Swan would do.
But like, I've never even made an angled cut with my track saw. It's always just been literally throw the track down, cut a sheet good, from a 4x8 into a 4x4.
I just did that on the bed swing. I had those little chamfers on the bottom edges of the long rails just to give it a little bit of lift on the corners there. I just clipped those off the track saw. I put the track right on there and just clipped them right off. So that's kind of like an angled cut in a sense.
Kind of like
Yo,
an
I think
it's still a straight cut, but it's at an angle.
right.
that's an angle cut. It's not kind of like it. It
Oh,
is. Yeah.
I think
Is it
the
90
tricky part
degrees?
though,
No.
tricky part now is that the
Technically, 90
market
degrees
is
at an angle, too.
it's sort of it's not what it used to be. There are multiple competitors in this space, and they all make decent products because ultimately it's not that difficult to get a saw to glide down a track, right? It's not that hard. So there's a lot of different competitors, and I don't think there's that much of a gap between these. As long as you avoid something that's absolutely bottom dollar, you're probably going to get a decent system that's going to work just fine, especially if that's what you're doing. As far as accessories go, I don't use anything. I throw the thing down and go.
There's a very, very strong, we'll call it the mark need, the need to have tools match.
What?
I think there is an incredible.
Why you gotta throw me under the bus?
Really rely upon that.
Don't bring me
You
into
know?
your metaphors.
Well, I mean, you think about it. Festool was the place to be for a long, long time,
Yeah.
and then wasn't there like a patent expired or something like that? And then Grizzly came out with a track saw, and then suddenly DeWalt had one. And people kept buying Festool because they wanted to be matchy, you know? And likewise, everybody wants the DeWalt yellow, or everybody wants the Makita blue, green, whatever we call that. Blue, I don't know.
Aqua, teal.
And then Ryobi like threw a monkey wrench in things and went from blue to that chartreuse thing. And
yes.
But how many people went out and immediately bought other chartreuse Ryobi tools because they had to have the matchy color scheme, you know?
Well, there's no
It's
doubt.
very
I think
clear
when it comes to Festool, I've always said this. There are game changer tools that they have, and then there are ones that are just really good versions of that and not game changers. And the TS saws used to be the game changer tool, and they're not anymore because the market has changed, and now there's fewer game changers in that lineup. You know, so it's just not what it used to be because the market has changed. Okay, what do we have next? Next one is from Mike, another voicemail, and actually, I'm not quite sure what Mike wants.
Oh, good.
Hi, Mark, Shannon, Matt. Just wanted to say I really enjoy your show. Particularly last week's show, I believe it was episode 401. That was great, and the viewer comments, the kickbacks. I don't. How do you compete with that? I mean, the bar has been set so unbelievably high. A guy like me, that's it. I'm giving away all my tools. I'm done with this stupid wood. Calm. Find your happy place. Okay, guys, sorry about that. I just need to take a couple deep breaths. Go watch my blood pressure. All right, I'm a fighter and a survivor. I know what I need to do. I'm going to go work on my audition tape. With any luck, I'll get back to you soon. Thanks, guys. I wonder if I should hire a ghostwriter.
Okay.
Wow.
It's really weird. I don't think he needs to hire a ghostwriter. I think he could do the writing. He just has to get someone to do the acting. Because that was interesting. Thanks for that, Mike. I had to play it. All right. What do we have next here? Okay, so we're done with the voicemail kickbacks. Let's see. I just wanted to put this one in there because it's not really a kickback per se, but so I did some sharpening this weekend, and in fact, I was sharpening my scrapers, and I haven't, a lot of them, I actually think I have 3 new ones, so I wanted to work the faces of them, so I'm actually removing a lot of material, trying to get them nice and flat, and I do the work on my bench. I've always done it on my workbench, and it was just hilariously timed, because last week, if you remember, Shannon says never, in his list of nevers, was never to sharpen on your primary woodworking bench. And meanwhile, I have black stains over the entire center of my Rubo. So I took pictures of it and put it out there, and everyone's like, "Oh, you don't listen to Shannon." And I was like, "That's right, I don't." To heck with him and his opinions.
It's a common affliction around here.
Yeah. So that was fun. That's my kickback to Shannon is, you give me advice, I don't take it.
I go the other way.
I go the exact opposite. But yeah, it was good. Fun sharpening stuff. Actually, it wasn't fun at all. Okay.
Not at all. All right, this next kickback comes from Andrew. He says, I know that Mark said the table saw is the one tool he couldn't be without, but I would have to say the router would be mine. You can, with jigs and bits, flatten, cut, trim, joint, and shape any boards. You can dado, rabbet, dovetail, box joint, mortise, and tenon, and the list goes on. With that said, you're not wrong. It's just, well, I'm right. Thanks for the great show, guys. As a listener from the tip of Africa. And his opening intro suggestion is, here's 3 guys, one with a beard, one without, and one with a mop on his head, but his wife likes it and she pays the bills.
Okay.
Oh, that's probably my favorite one.
I like that one. That's very good. Although sometimes 2 of us have a beard. It's not quite accurate.
That's true. That's true.
It is.
Okay. Party's over. Time for Matt to read one.
Yeah.
This is from Tommaso. About last week's, wow, I'm ready to screw this one up. About last episode question on combo jointer planer machines. If it's a matter of budget, wouldn't it be better to spend $500 on a bench shop 12-inch planer and learn how to flatten a board using it, like through hand plane preparation or a planer sled? Pretty sure the albino gorilla is with me on this one. What say you, Shannon? Is this something you typically do?
No, I don't need to restate simple fact. I mean, that's the truth.
If you want to be a
There's no
good
reason-
person.
Yeah, basically.
No, I think Tommaso is absolutely right. I think that money's better spent on a decent planer. Find other ways to get that first flat face. You'll be a happier person and a better person, frankly.
Yeah, because I mean, how flat does it really have to be? Just so it doesn't rock on the bed of the planer, right? It's good to go.
It's like we say, it's got to be hand tool flat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, good stuff. Let's see. We got a voicemail question now. This is from Matt. Where the heck is it? I think I closed the file. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves.
So, Matt, do you often call into the show and leave voicemails, Matt?
Oh, constantly. They finally get played, though, I see.
Yeah. Well, they go into their own file.
There's the
Okay.
Matt file.
Here it is. Question from Matt.
Hey guys, this is Matt from Maryland. I sent an email question a week or so ago. Didn't get it played on air, and I really appreciate your advice. So you suggested anybody who has an accent could leave a voicemail, and it will always get played. I guess you guys figure I have an accent, so here goes. I'm looking to build a table, a small occasional table out of sepele, and I want to put a quilted maple veneer on the top of the table and on the front of the drawer, the single drawer that's underneath the table. Everything I see says don't veneer onto solid wood. Would like to keep the sepele there because I want to keep the sepele edges. I want to have a little bit of the underside of the sepele showing. So I was really just looking to lay the maple veneer on the top. So the questions are, A, am I just crazy? Should I just stick with a plywood and try and put some edge banding on it, which is not my first choice? If I go with the sepele, do I need to put a backing veneer underneath? How do I make sure the thing isn't going to go crazy on me over time? Warp or pull. I hear crazy stories of what veneer can do to solid wood. So having never done it before, I want to give it a shot, and I really appreciate your guys' opinion on the best path forward. Thanks a lot. Bye.
All right. What do you guys think?
I've seen many, quote, masterpieces in museums with veneer over top of solid wood.
Yep.
And I've also seen some cracks in the veneer over top of that solid wood because things have moved around on it. And it still looks pretty awesome. So, maybe it's against the modern perfection that we aim for, but I don't really see a problem with it. I mean, the wood's going to move underneath. I think if the what do you say, quilted maple? I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds pretty awesome. I mean, if the overall effect is going to be really cool looking, I think a lot of people won't even notice if there's a check that happens in the top. Plus, if you finish it well, you don't constrict the movement of the top underneath it, the substrate. You'll follow good business practices. Follow good building practices.
Write your business plan
Follow
first.
good business practices as well. Yeah, make sure you
Pay your
withhold
taxes.
the right amount. And you think about the climate controlled nature of our homes today. There's a lot less movement going on. You might be surprised at how well that does. I mean, those same pieces I talk about in the museums that have cracked, they probably did not crack while they were in the museum. They cracked, 100 years ago because of the unclimate controlled nature of it. So I would say go for it. Don't overthink it.
Mm-hmm. It's nothing worse than a 100-year-old crack.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, you're disgusting. Stop. All right. What's where are we? I just lost track. Okay.
I'm over here laughing. Don't worry about me.
Okay. So if you want to send us a voicemail, use your voice memo app on your mobile device and send that to woodtalkonline@gmail.com. And now it's time for this.
Shannon's Lumber Industry Update.
All right. It's been a while. What do you got for us, Shannon?
I love that.
It's the best.
It makes me so happy to hear that.
Best $5 I ever spent.
All right. It's an interesting little thing going on in the African hardwood market. We talked about African mahogany last time. I want to talk specifically about sepele because I've had a few people write in and say, what's the deal with sepele? It's gotten
What's
really
the
cheap.
deal? What's the
What is it?
All right, go ahead.
What is it? Yeah. Several people have noticed that the price has started to plummet. if you haven't seen it in your neck of the woods, it will be coming soon enough. And there's an interesting thing that will happen sometimes, I think actually in any commodities industry. But what has happened is a broker, somebody who's not really specialized in lumber, not done any kind of lumber buying before, just thought, hey, there might be some money to be made in this African hardwood market. So they brought in their outside investor money and bought a sizable percentage of the global supply of sapele all at once, and basically corner the market. And they are now trying to offload that material, and they're doing it at just a ridiculously low price. And this is what happens when you get a broker who really doesn't have any of the overhead. They're not doing any of the drying. They're not dealing with the storage of the material. It's sight unseen. They've gone to Africa, probably to Ghana or the Cameroon, and they bought it directly from a sawmill, bought the entire thing. Like, how much do you have in stock? Oh, we've got 45,000 board feet. I'll take it. And then they call the next guy. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of board feet of sapele that's been bought up by a broker with no skin in the game whatsoever, and is now flooding the market all at once. And basically, you know, with that kind of volume, if you can make pennies per board foot, it's a profit, because that's all this. You think about like day trading, you know, there's no skin in the game whatsoever. You just buy low, sell high, you know, and if you make a couple pennies on the stock, you made money and you move on. And it is completely screwing with not just the sapele market, but the entire African hardwood market, because it's a very tight kind of bottleneck. All this lumber comes into just a couple of ports and is all shipped out through that one port. Well, this broker essentially has completely clogged those ports with huge container ships of sapele all coming out at the same time. Now it's hitting our shores, and you know, it's going for like $4 a board foot lower than what the market is actually calling for. So you're finding a lot of people who are starting to adjust their price to try to be competitive, but there's only so far you can go. More importantly, we're seeing a lot of people now, some of that sight unseen sapele is starting to come back. Like, this stuff is crap. You know, it's dried not at all, or dried to European standards and wasn't air dried and then re-kiln dried to North American standards, which, if you don't know, is a good 4 to 6% moisture content lower than the European standards. So there's all kinds of stuff. There's no grade on this material, but it's all being sold at this rock bottom price. So what does that mean to us? It does mean that you're going to see a drop in sapele prices, but it also means buyer beware. If you find a significantly cheaper sapele price, you probably want to take a look at that stuff before you jump into it. And if you don't have a moisture meter, you might want to get one, because who knows what you could be buying. And it doesn't mean that it's all bad. It may be that your local supplier has just dropped their price to try to compete, and they still have good stuff. It's unfortunate because the margins on lumber are so thin to begin with, but you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. At the same time, you can expect the pendulum to swing the other way. How long that will be, I'm not exactly sure. It could be a year, could be 3 months before it swings and suddenly sapele climbs in price dramatically, because there's basically the volume has been bought up and it's hit the market all at once, and there's nothing new coming in behind it. So there could be some interesting stuff, and it could really throw the entire African hardwood market for a loop, and who knows what's going to happen over the coming years. So there you go. Some greedy corporate broker came in and screwed it all up.
What a jerk.
What a jerk.
So what you're saying is I should buy a bunch of it,
stock up
try
now,
it, and sit on it until the prices go way up to the roof again, and then sell.
Mm-hmm. Buy low, sell high.
Hearing.
But what you're going to find is it's going to be difficult to buy. You may end up with a lot of scant. You may end up with a lot of narrow, a lot of short, a lot of below grade type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to net a
He's
very
used
good
to that.
price, even when it's dried properly.
Yeah.
So there's just no quality control whatsoever. So you really have no idea what you're buying. And for the most part, these guys tend to sell. You know, you can't just go and buy 100 board feet from them. It's by the container, 20,000 board feet or nothing.
Yeah.
So
I'll go halvesies with you, Matt. Let's do it.
Sanford and Son yard can't handle a container.
Who wants to go halvesies?
I'm going halvesies. I'll go with you. Let's do it.
I can get a container in here, no problem. I got rid of my logs. You kidding me? No problem. No problem.
Yeah, he's got this. It'll be fine. All right, let's get to our email. First one here is from Andy. He says, I have a small garage shop with two 20-volt outlet with one 220-volt outlet that's used to power multiple tools, including my jointer bandsaw and table saw. Currently, I'm rolling each tool close enough to the outlet in order to plug it in. What are your thoughts on making a 220 extension cord? It would provide me some more clearance from the garage walls and limit some of my never-ending battle with tool placement in the garage space. Thanks. So all I can say, I'm not an electrician on this, but all I can say is I've done this, and I think as long as you use material that is rated properly for the amperage and a load that's going to be on there, you'll be fine. So I will go to Home Depot or Lowe's and just get, they have that big old spool thing that spins around, and you can get a whatever length you want of a flexible extension cord type material and buy the ends. So you have a receptacle on one end and the plug on the other end. Just make sure you're also getting plugs that are rated properly for whatever it is, the type of line that you're actually running. So I think it's 30, if it's a 30 amp 220 line, you're going to want 10 gauge and then 12 gauge for 20 amp. And if you follow that guideline, you should be well within any kind of safety restrictions that there might be for running an extension cord there. You shouldn't have any issues with it, at least to my knowledge. So if anybody wants to correct me on that, please do. But I've done this for years, and it works just fine. But making your own is definitely the way to go.
I did the same thing when I got my planer. I just made well, in my case, I actually rewired the tool, but I made an extension cord and then hardwired it into the machine.
Right.
I did the same thing. I, just went to the internet and said, what size gauge, cable do I need, and all the fun little attachments. And yeah, it was good. No problems.
Yep.
I got my sawmill on extension cord. So
oh, you do?
that as
Nice.
well.
And that hasn't caught on fire, so it's fine.
It's perfect. Don't worry about it.
It's outside, so no big deal.
It's true. It's fine if it catches on fire. It's outside the house. It's
Right.
There's a fire extinguisher somewhere nearby.
I mean, as long as my container of sepele isn't anywhere near it,
Right.
it should be all right.
Yeah, that's your kid's college fund investment right there. So,
Sepele's got a pretty good fire rating too, so you should be all right.
Well, if it's not dry yet either, it shouldn't really burn that well.
Yeah, good point.
it'll just smolder a little bit.
Good point. Maybe you can charge more for it now since it's not dried properly.
Smoked sapele.
Ooh,
That sounds good, right?
love me some smoked sepele with Munster cheese.
Oh, man. All right, looks like I got the next one here. This one here is from Nick over on Patreon. Oh, this is a long one. Long by my standards. Okay. Nobody
I'm not even going to go for it. I'm not even.
Listen.
Nope.
Just now. Yeah. Wow.
I'm going to stay mature on this one. That's what she said. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I'm feeling like we're swinging the pendulum a little too far to the professionalism side on this one.
Okay.
Getting too close to being too professional.
We'll work on that. We'll work on it.
So, take notes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this is from Nick. It says, when using a chainsaw mill, what is your feeling on the importance of using a ripping chain versus a standard one? I got a ripping chain from Bailey's, not a sponsor, for my steel, not a sponsored chainsaw. For use of my Alaskan, not a sponsor. I only recently realized this was a trademark mill. From my research, it seems like ripping chains are not anti-kickback, but it seems like this would be less of an issue with the saw captured by the mill frame. So as long as you use enough wedges to keep the curve from getting pinched. Should I just go the safe route and build my own giant bandsaw mill? P.S. If you know of any sponsors, please send them my way.
I think Nick's looking for sponsors.
I'm not sharing my sponsors. They're mine. You can sell it on your own time. Okay. So the difference between the ripping chain and the standard chain is just the angle that the tooth is ground to. So a standard crosscut chain on your chainsaw is going to be around 30 degrees, and the ripping chain is going to be somewhere 10 degrees or maybe even a little bit less than that, depending on who you talk to. And the difference there is the wear life and the smoothness of cut. So when you're using a chainsaw mill, you're fighting a pretty much a losing battle using a really low-powered saw, all things considered, taking a pretty large curve, and all that wear gets right on the tip of that tooth. So the shallower the angle, the longer the tooth will last as far as sharpness goes, the longer you can cut for on a single sharpening. And it's like a side benefit of it is the cut is a little bit smoother. Can you cut with the standard chain? Absolutely. Can you not make it as far? Absolutely not. You cannot make it nearly as far with that standard chain as you can with ripping chain. That being said, doesn't really have anything to do with the anti-kickback. The standard, homeowner saw type chains have anti-kickback features, so they have these things that prevent you from taking too deep of a cut Essentially, it's like a secondary raker kind of thing. But I haven't even used those since I use an electric chainsaw. All my saws are not safe chains or whatever, like the normal dangerous ones that are so deadly.
Living on the
But
edge.
still living on the edge. But yeah, I mean, you're right, though. When you're talking about being mounted in the mill, it can't go anywhere. So there really isn't a kickback issue either, especially most of the time with the chainsaw. When you're getting a kickback, it's going to be when you are burying the top half of the tip into a piece of wood. The directionality of the rotation of the chain causes the whole saw to be thrown back at you. But you're not using the tip of the chainsaw bar when you're milling anyway, so kickback is pretty impossible. Wow, there we go. So, wow.
Fail English? That's impossible.
And the last thing I'll say is Nick, I believe, posted a picture of the logs he's planning to mill on Facebook. I saw it somewhere, and they're pretty small, so I wouldn't even bother getting a ripping chain. If you already have a chain that's normal or whatever, just go with that, because the logs you're cutting, they're like less than 10 inches looking. Like, they're tiny. So you'll be fine. Just go cut them.
Matt's throwing shade, man. Are you going to take that?
Take it.
Those logs, they're tiny.
They are tiny, though. Little tiny baby logs.
Little baby logs. Matt, that answer was off the chain.
Wow.
Off the chain. Woo!
Cool.
Wow.
Get your own sponsors.
Get your own.
Love it.
Okay, this email comes from Chris, and he says, after a weekend trip to our not-so-local hardwood dealer, a buddy of mine picked out some Purple Heart and a wonderful piece of quarter sawn sapele. We decided it would make a great combination for some small jewelry boxes he was building, but it occurred to me that I've never worked with sapele, and I have no idea what the working properties are. Would you be able to describe the working properties of sapele for me? I absolutely can, but I'm going to go one step further. And I'm going to unlock the keys to the kingdom of wood knowledge for you. Go to the internet and Google sapele technical properties, or go to the wood database. What is it? wood-database.com, or just Google wood database. You'll find it. And look up sapele. You'll find a bunch of technical properties there. Things like hardness, crushing strength, bending strength, modulus of rupture or stiffness. All of those things have numbers next to them. They're usually measured in pounds per square inch, or kilonewtons, all kinds of numbers that mean absolutely nothing until you compare it against a wood that you do know the working properties of. So what wood do you know? Have you worked with hard maple before? Do you know what maple's like? Have you worked with cherry, walnut, etc.? Pull up the numbers for that known species and compare it to the numbers of sapele. And you're going to learn a lot. The things to look at are hardness, often listed as the Janka number. Density is another one to look at. And porosity. Is it ring porous, diffuse porous, or semi-ring porous? The wood database will also tell you things like, is the grain interlocked? Is it straight grain, etc. Those are really the things you need to look at most and compare those numbers. Who cares what the number is? Even if you know that walnut is 890 pounds per square inch Janka, that doesn't really tell you anything. It's like when Mark counts his Honda money. It gets to the point where it means nothing to the average person.
Really.
So it's important to take what you already know, what species you already know, and use that as your control and compare from there. So for instance, sapele, I want to say, has a hardness of about 1500. I should know this by now, but I don't. It's a little bit harder than hard maple, but it's got much bigger pores. So again, you go to the wood database, you look at sapele and look at hard maple and look at the end grain pictures, you'll see that sapele has much larger pores. But sapele has an interlocked grain structure, so you may find that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to hand plane. It might tear out a little bit more, but you may not care. You may not be using hand planes at this point. The ribbon stripe nature you get out of your quarter sawn sapele is indicative of a spiral or interlock grain. But you'll find that the hardness and the working properties in many ways is actually a little bit easier than hard maple, because look at the density number and you'll see there's a density difference between sapele and hard maple. And just looking at the pictures of the pore sizes will tell you that there's much less dead space in hard maple, much less space for the material to move into. So it feels a heck of a lot harder than sapele does. The other basic thing is just looking at the wood database. It'll give you some kind of paragraphs on what the working properties are. How is this tool, or excuse me, how does this would affect your tools. The only problem I will say there is most of the time they usually say there is a minor blunting effect on tools. Just about all exotics have that sentence. It's either a minor blunting or it'll say major blunting on tools if you're looking at something like sepele or ipe or something like that. The key is pay attention to those numbers and do a side-by-side comparison, and you'll learn a lot about how whatever that species is, and it kind of unlocks your ability to compare. I don't care whether it's Suriname snakewood or, Aphazelia or Afrormosia. You can utilize those technical specs to tell you a lot as long as you have some experience with some wood somewhere.
Realistically, though, does anyone do this? Like, I get it. I understand you want to be prepared, but isn't the best way to know the working properties of any wood to start working it?
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like you could tell me
evidence is always the way to go.
You could tell me cherry is really easy to work, but then I put it on my workbench and I get tear out. Why? Because this particular board that I have happens to be argumentative, and it's creating a problem for me in this situation. Like even within a species, each individual board can be pretty unique. So it's like I would, even if I read that Wengi is the worst wood to work with, it dulls your tools, but I want to use Wengi, guess what? I'm going to use it. And if it dulls my tools a little faster, then so what? I mean, I just think just get it in there, start cutting it. In the first 2 cuts, you're going to know what the working properties are.
And I'm glad you said that, because I get emails like this all the time. And people are like, well, I want to know what it is before I buy it. And a lot of that comes down to hardwood's expensive. You don't want to get stuck down a rabbit hole, or more often than not, this is born out of some other bad experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That guy bought some Jara or some Jataba, Brazilian cherry, whatever you want to call it, and just had a nightmare of a time with it. And it's like, man, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to get burnt on it. But in this particular instance, Chris said they've already bought the sepele. So, if I told you it's awful, it's terrible stuff, you don't want to work with it, what are you going to do? Take it back? I mean, I guess you could, but I actually quite enjoy working with sepele. I find it very easy to work with.
Did you say Jataba? Doesn't Jataba live in the Dagobah system?
It does.
Okay.
It does.
It's
about 20 miles just past Mos Eisley.
Oh, okay. Well, I know where that is.
East of Mos Eisley.
Wonderful. Yeah. All right. Well, if you want to leave us a review, we would appreciate that. Just go to iTunes. That's where people go to get podcasts still, amazingly. And look us up and click on ratings and reviews and give us a rating there. And if it's a good one, we might read it on the show. You never know. Haven't done it in a while, but...
have you read I was going to say, have you even read one in
Well, we haven't had a new review.
How long?
Yeah, I went there today to look for one, and the latest one is the one that we read last time. So I'm not, we don't get a lot of reviews there.
Come on, people.
I think it's indicative of the fact that iTunes is dying a slow and painful death.
Totally unrelated to woodworking, but I just heard like an announcement with iOS 11 that's on its way out, that they are going to be integrating some kind of podcast stats. And I'm like, it's about like 8 years too late.
Come on, man.
For the longest time,
the last decade?
we've always wanted stats from iTunes when iTunes was a factor. And these days, it's just so not a factor. It's still a good distribution mechanism for audio, but certainly for video, it's kind of just like, whatever. So I read that. I'm like, seriously, now? Okay, great, thanks. Let me go check my feed burner stats while I'm at it. Okay. So let's see.
Wow, that takes me back right there.
Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So aside from that, you can also get yourself a Wood Talk t-shirt at twwstore.com. And pretty soon, I gave them to my mom. They are hot off the press. We've got the little USB sticks with Wood Talk, basically all Wood Talk episodes with the exception of the last couple of weeks that you guys can pick up and purchase all in one place.
I'll be starting my update service soon.
I just love that sentence. Pretty soon, I gave them to my mom.
Yep. Hey, I'm a mama's boy. My mom is involved in this stuff.
I got mom's approval, so soon there'll be a product.
I gave them to my mama, and she's going to send them to you. So it's a great relationship there. Shannon, why don't you give them the contact info, and we'll get out of here.
If you have comments, questions, or really want to email Shannon and tell him that the Dagobah system is not Tatooine, and if you're going to reference Mos Eisley, choose the right planet, you dumb
Doy.
I recognize my error, people, but if you're watching the video feed, you'll see that I have a Spider-Man shirt on, not a Star Wars shirt. That was yesterday, so I would have gotten my Star Wars facts right yesterday. Today, you can ask me all about the Sinister Six and various Spider-Man plot lines, and I'll be good for you. So if you want to send those in, you can send us a voicemail. Just use your handy-dandy voice memo app and send it to woodtalkonline@gmail.com, or you can go to woodtalkshow.com/contact and type it out in our fancy form there. Or you know what? just go to the show page. This show right here, whatever this episode is, 403, scroll to the bottom, leave a comment, and tell us all of your useless Star Wars facts that we should have known.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget, we're on Instagram.
We are.
Don't forget it.
Don't
More
forget
importantly,
it.
Mark is on Instagram.
I am, yeah.
He has control of that account.
It's really
So
just
if
me.
anything truly offends you, you know why.
Yeah, I'm good at that. Also, just want to mention, stick around for the email extra. If you are a $4 or higher patron at patreon.com/woodtalk, you can get that extra content. We'll be answering John's question about fixed base and plunge base routers. So we will get to that in a moment. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we will catch you next time.
Can't wait to talk about that.
That's,
I
yeah,
have
you're
so
going to
much
sit on
to
the
say.
side. Hey, Shannon, go get us some coffee.
All
right.
Dig up the system and get some coffee.
Okay, that one's done.
Cashew coffee.
That was good.
Wookiee coffee, I bet, has some strong body.
Mm-hmm. It's probably got a lot of crud in the bottom, too, when you're done toward the end. I hate that. Not every day that we work in some Star Wars references in the show. That's pretty good.
You know, when I was in Greece, I had Greek coffee because I kept hearing, you know, you got to try the Greek coffee. It's super, super strong. And I didn't realize that, like, they don't filter the grinds.
Oh, yeah.
It's just sludge at the bottom. And I like, oh, man, this is good. And I tipped it back. And,
that last little bit.
Like,
and then you
at first
start
I thought,
crunching
like,
it.
This is a relic of, like, you know, the frou-frou coffee Starbucks era. Like, oh, it's just like, you know, undissolved chocolate syrup at the bottom. And then I started to chew. And I was like, this is crunchy.
You always know it's a good day when you have to chew your coffee.
It's for that extra little pep.
It's good stuff. All right, let's skip to the weekend. The weekend chew.
If you could just skip to the weekend.
Okay, where's the file? There it is. Okay, so we're doing ouch. Brody.
It's that armpit muscle again.
No, man, you want to see what I got going on here? You want to see it?
No.
I have a,
Is something...
a small injury. It's not a big deal. It's not gross. So this,
God,
this is
you
my
stabbed?
armpit. So when I got this stuff worked on last week, I used those Sanoderm bandages, and they're like an adhesive, very thin, clear adhesive bandage. And I put it up too high. So I put it at the flex point between my shoulder and like right in between the shoulder and the bicep. And there's just too much motion there. So over the course of the day, I went into the shop. I was working. Everything was fine. Didn't even realize that the adhesive bandage was pulling on that real sensitive skin on the inside of the shoulder there, just near my armpit. And it created a blister. So I took the bandage off that night, had no idea that it was there, and pulled the bandage off. And what it did was it pulled the skin off the blister. So it it looks terrible. Has nothing to do with the actual tattoo injury that's healing. It was from the stupid bandage. So you see that right there?
That does not look comfortable.
Ouch.
That hurt like a mother, and that was just a wide open blister. So yeah. So once in a while, I'll go a certain way and go, oh, that smarts. Don't do that again.
Oh.
So yeah. So when you come out, Matt, let's put some of that on your legs.
No.
Let's see what happens.
It's not. It's what, are you shaving your arms now?
That's a live stream opportunity if I've ever seen one.
Oh well, before you put that on, yeah, you do want to make sure there's no hair there. The good thing is when you get tattooed, they shave you anyway. So
Free shave?
Yeah, it's a free shave.
Man.
You don't even have to pay for that. It's all part of the deal.
They actually have a face tat. I can use a shave.
Get a nice neck tattoo, a nice bandsaw mill going up.
Oh my
There
god.
we go.
Be your trademark
Circular
thing.
saw blade coming up. That'd be awesome.
Oh,
as long
man.
as it crosses across your lips, so that you get the teeth coming in there.
Yep.
With the teeth.
Lindsay would love that. She's
I wonder if she gets those sweet like temporary ones that are like 2 weeks or a month. Scare the bejesus out of Lindsay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, we definitely have. Well, I'll wait till it's offline. I don't want to spoil it, but Shannon,
Do it right before like the firm Christmas party.
yeah, Shannon, we're gonna tell you afterwards a funny thing that we're gonna do involving tattoos while Matt's here. It's gonna be awesome.
Yay!
You're in on it.
Okay, let's see. So we got Brody's question, right? Let's get the file going and do the weekend show.
Welcome to the Wood Talk Weekend Show. It's time to unbutton those pants, crack open a fresh grape soda, and let the soothing sounds of Mark, Shannon, and Matt caress your ear holes.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 404 for August 4th, 2017. On today's show, it's a weekend show, by the way. Weekend show.
This is the weekend.
Question from
I'm gonna see
Brody.
Mark soon.
Yeah, that's right. Just pack your bags, baby. All right. Brody Bricky wrote in. He said, it was great to have a chance to meet Matt, Mark, and Nicole at AWFS. I was kind of hoping to meet Shannon too, but it really is a power tool show. You may have seen John Ratzenberger, that's Ham from Toy Story, by the way, talk about the need for training and people in the trades and how not everyone is suited for college. Thoughts on what route your kids might take? The strength of training available. Before I finish this question, I just realized both the email extra and the weekend show questions involve things that aren't directly relevant to Shannon. So, Shannon, if you want to take a break, no, I think you'll have some good input on this as well. So, what thoughts on what route your kids will take?
It's parenting advice. I'm all about it. Can't wait to tell people how to raise their kids.
Will you plan to put Kenny into the trades or what? Pulling wheelbarrows around work sites and things like that. Okay, so the strength of training available, and he says, Shannon, when I first started listening to Wood Talk, I just couldn't wrap my head around someone going all hand tool. Damn you for wearing me down. I now have a hand plane, shiver, and other things besides sanders for shaping my furniture. Thanks for all the fun discussions, Brody. So, now we know that Shannon does not have children, but I think his perspective on this could be useful and his opinion. So
I am an employer in the trades. I can add something there.
And your wife is a teacher. So she comes home and relays all these stories about annoying kids. So I think you probably have some perspective.
Dumb kids. Dumb kids. We're all doing
other people's kids.
Yeah, other people's kids. So I'll throw this to Matt first. So do you have any perspectives on this in terms of your children? I mean, obviously, both yours and mine are very young. Certainly a little too young to be choosing a career path. You know, maybe at least wait till 7 before we start talking about careers. But if you were, do you have any thoughts on this in terms of where your kids might go and how you might direct them with career choices like this between trades, college, things like that?
I think it's I don't know. It's so early.
It's a little early, right?
But as someone who I went through that not a super long time ago. I mean, I'm getting up there in age.
Oh yeah.
I can still kind of remember going through that whole experience, and I don't know. At least for them, at this point in my life, whatever, if they want to do something that's non-traditional, like I don't know, not go to college or do something else,
pole dancing,
I could totally support that. I think, really interestingly, like I think that the kids of my generation, like the millennials, are going to have a very interesting time as they kind of come up, because I honestly think things are going to change for the kids that are like the kids from this generation. I think for the first time it's going to be back to like maybe college isn't really worth it anymore, because the cost of college is only going higher and higher and higher every year. Mm-hmm. And I cannot even like begin to fathom like how much those kids are going to cost me if they want to go to college and I decide I want to pay for it. Because even if I didn't want to pay for it, the thought of them taking on the student loans to pay for all that scares me even more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have a pretty tough life, I've already found out, and I'm not even there yet.
Well, plus you're a lazy millennial and you don't have any money anyway, so how are you going to pay for this stuff?
I am super lazy. I just want to be fulfilled in my job.
You're just waiting for someone to drop money on your lap because you deserve it.
I deserve it, I went through it. I deserve everything, okay? I shouldn't have to work for it. I already worked.
Yeah.
Barely.
Exactly. You went to college. You did what you were supposed to do. Hard work is done. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, for me, I keep my expectations fairly light when it comes to the kids. I mean, my policy is as long as they're not. Well, it saves on disappointment if I don't have high expectations. No, seriously. Here's my expectations for my kid. They have to be a productive human being and not be an a-hole. And if they do that, then they can do whatever makes them happy. There are plenty of people here who just have Joe jobs. They don't live to work. They work to live, and the job just brings in a paycheck. As long as they're happy doing that and that's what they want to do, then fine. But I do insist that they are not jerks and that they do something positive to help the world. So if I can do that, I consider that a parenting win. As far as what they do for career paths, if they want to go into the trades, I would absolutely support that. I think, Matt, you bring up an incredibly good point. There is a sort of sense of college education not being what it once was or not being as valuable as it used to be. I've seen some documentaries and stuff that Nicole and I have talked about this, about how sort of the college system of processing people through this education system is completely broken and really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for developing people into being the best at whatever it is they're good at naturally, like harnessing what they're good at. We want to put everyone through a filter to get a bunch of vanilla worker bees, instead of really focusing on what each individual, child, or if we're talking about college, obviously adults, but what each individual is really good and has good potential for. So I am all for them going a non-traditional path. And frankly, I think because what I do is so non-traditional, I would have to support that. But I also think I've learned a few things about that and how you can, use your skills to do something that no one really ever thought of as a career path, and to this day still don't. Like we had dinner with our neighbors last night, and like, we still don't understand how you guys make money. Like, we don't understand how you could afford your house. So most people don't get it. And I think there's still great opportunity for people who think outside the box to sort of make an amazing career that can be fun, interesting, compelling, and do some good for the world at the same time.
I think
that lack of kind of, I've got this degree, now I'm qualified to get this job or do this job, and so many of the disenchanted kids who have left college and have no job and no prospects at all, and that is actually what has spawned non-traditional careers like both of you have. They talk about how like 95% of the Fortune 500 companies started during a recession because people were getting laid off. There were no jobs. So it was like, well, screw this. I'm not going to work for the man. I'm going to start Apple in my garage. I'm going to start IBM in my basement. And that's how all this started, the innovation in these new companies. And what we've found is not only is there new companies and innovation happening, but the workforce, the picture of the workforce has changed entirely with the internet. Work from home is more standard than it ever has been before, or the ability to build your own business with nothing but a website. The virtual business never existed before. So there's more outlets. So when you look at a kid who's like, well, do I want to go to college? Do I want to study this or study that? It's kind of like, well, I don't care. I'll just, be a content creator on YouTube. Of course, then there's the, dramatic awakening when you realize it's very hard to make any decent money on YouTube, but still you hear about people every day who sold their blog to some brand or something like that. And again, it's a small percentage of people, but it's still a viable path that never existed for me, certainly. I mean, we didn't have the internet when I was in college. my university got a homepage the year after I graduated.
Mr. Rogers, you have a Telegram.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right there.
We had email, but no one ever used it because no one had computers in their dorm rooms, their apartments, because they cost an arm and a leg, and they were as big as a whole room. Okay, maybe not. They were Commodore 64s. Okay.
Yeah.
We had computers in our apartments. They were called Sega Genesis. That's what they were.
Nothing wrong with that. So the cool thing though, and at least maybe this is just where we spend our time, that we see this stuff. I have to imagine this sort of renewed respect for the trades is catching a little bit of momentum. Things that Mike Rowe does as sort of a proponent of blue collar work not being a 4-letter word and actually like a valuable thing that someone can make a great living doing. I think the awareness is there. And honestly, if I see that, let's say, Mateo or Ava have an aptitude for that and they just don't seem like college bound and it's just not part of what they're interested in, I would absolutely 100%, support them and push them to go into some kind of a trade that interests them. I think it's a great option. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And probably you're in a job.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get training.
Get paid for something.
Yeah, you'll get training and you'll get a job in that field and make money in that field, unlike what most of us who went to college do.
Well, I mean, we are constantly trying to hire people at the lumberyard and constantly coming up dry. So we have to take a very close look at our own onboarding and our own training, and we've begun to look at how can we reinstate some kind of apprentice type program, because there's just nobody. I mean, it's a regional thing. Certainly, we are far enough away from the sawmills and things like that of central Pennsylvania and Maine and stuff like that, where we don't even have schools that are teaching and graduating kids into forestry and millwork and stuff like that. So there's just absolutely nothing, a complete scarcity of labor force. But yet I could hire probably 6 molding operators tomorrow if they were qualified. You know, same thing with like truck drivers, you know, commercial driver's license truck drivers. We could probably hire 4 or 5 of them on the spot. And there's just no one. There's
really no kidding.
No one available at all. And of course, there's a huge amount of competition because of that, because we're one company. And you talk to any company that does any kind of transportation and trucking, they've got the same needs.
All looking for drivers.
So, yeah, I mean, what is it? Mike Rose said that the average welder is making like 6 figures, and what is it? I think South Dakota is the highest paid place to be a welder because there's like 4 of them. 4 of them in the entire state. So if you're a certified, what's the certification? Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever the certification is to be a welder, if you hold that piece of paper from a trade school, you just write your own ticket, you know? And not even just trades. Same thing goes into like the medical profession. Registered nurses. I think you would consider that still to be a trade. It's not a college degree type thing, I don't think. An RN can basically write their ticket, go anywhere in the country. My cousin got her RN, and it was kind of like, all right, $20,000 signing bonus. Where do you want to go? You know, the world is your oyster. So I don't know, man. I think it all comes down to what's going to make you happy, and follow that. Don't worry about white collar, blue collar, all that crap.
Do what makes you happy, yo. Follow your passion. I don't like that
wear a
advice.
collar. Wear a T-shirt.
Aha!
Yeah, there you go.
Wear a goofy Spider-Man shirt.
Yeah.
That's a path to success, I think.
I think so.
Okay, well, that is the weekend show, friends. And I guess we'll see you next week.
Maybe.
No, wait.
Yeah.
Yes, we have one
Yes.
more show, and then we'll be out for a few weeks. So, okay, we will catch you next time.
See ya.
Happy weekend.
Just confused myself there for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute. I have to think as if I'm in the future.
What day is it again?
All right. Email extra. Let's make this one a quick one, huh?
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, and I'm going to kill the live stream. So thanks for paying attention, folks who are in the chat room. We appreciate you hanging out with us.
Bye, live people.
See you later.
And dead people.
Hey, that's not
Live
nice.
and dead people.